Yo, what's up guys, Boss here, and I'm back from the YouTube video, and look at this, we got to #1 in the world. I'm really happy right now. Obviously, the season hasn't ended yet, so it's not like I finished #1, but 4 days, 4 hours left of the season, and we're currently first in the world at 7,945 trophies. I'm really hyped right now. I had some pretty crazy wins today. If you guys didn't see my last video, I actually tilted all the way down to like 7,100 3 days ago, and look at this, we're back to first place. 7,945 trophies. I've been #1 before, but it's been at least, I think, a month or two. It's been a long time since I've been first, so it's exciting to be back on top again. So what I want to do is show you guys the games that got me first in the world, using what in my opinion is the best deck in the meta right now. If not the best deck, maybe one of the very best decks in the meta. So consistent, you have really strong defense with this deck, with the Fisherman, the Ewiz, and the Hunter. Royal Ghost is really strong after the buff it got in the Heal Spirit. Don't even need to mention it too much. You guys already know how strong it is for 1 Elixir. Bar Barrel is good to have like a tank down. I think it's a little bit better versus graveyard decks, and I think it's good for applying pressure, and overall it just pairs better in this deck than Log, in my opinion. So before we show the replays, if you guys want to support me, you can use my credit code BOSS. You can use it in any Supercell game. It helps support me, helps support the channel. And now, guys, let's get into the replay. So the first one I want to show is versus Oyasu. So if you guys don't know who Oyasu is, he's a really good Hog player. He also has a YouTube channel as well. You can see in his clan YouTube. What we'll do for the majority of these replays is in single elixir speeded up. In this specific game, we ended up getting pretty much a very early lead at the beginning of the game, and we pretty much just won off of that, which you guys are about to see. So with Hog EQ, as you guys know, the Hog player cycles lots of Earthquakes throughout the game because it can be difficult for them to get Hogs to the tower. In this matchup, I like to fireball the bomb towers in single elixir because it gets to the RG to the tower, and RG in the back is definitely the way to go, because what you can do is when you play one in the back, you can play another at the bridge when they don't have their bomb tower back in cycle. So see what I'm about to do. I'm going to go RG at the bridge. He has no bomb tower in rotation. He has to cycle skeletons. He's low on elixir, so I take advantage of his cycle, and basically I pretty much take his tower right here. Oyasu's not very happy. He actually earthquakes and gives up right there because he knew the game was over, but that's exactly what I do versus Hog EQ, and it's a good matchup for me. I normally win it. So let's get into Mega Knight Bait. This is a deck that's been around in the game, I would say, the last couple years now. A lot of people still use it. Maybe some of you guys watching still use it. I remember, 2 years ago, it was one of the strongest decks in the whole game. It's, of course, a little weaker now, especially after the Miner getting a couple nerfs, but it's viable if you know how to play it. And this guy, at the time I played him, he was like, top 100. So it's still viable if you know how to use it. I like playing very passively at the beginning of the game. I typically, in this type of matchup, don't play any RGs until double elixir because I know that he's got the Inferno drag. So it would just be a pretty big mistake, in my opinion, if I were to do that. So instead, we're just cycling our support cards, kind of responding to what he wants to do. You can see Ghost gets really good cleanup, like with the splash on his Goblin Gangs and Spear Goblins. And we're just continuing to cycle our support cards. I'm going to go ahead and just cycle my Hunter in the back. And in double elixir, that's when we're building up our main pushes. And overall, not too bad of a matchup because once we get in double elixir, we can overwhelm him with the RG pushes, and of course we have the luxury of going in for an Ewiz on top of his Inferno Drag. Let's slow it down because we are in double elixir, just because there's a lot more going on, whereas in single elixir, I'll of course do 1 times because it's a little bit slower. So I go for my first RG at the bridge because he decided to go for an Inferno Drag in the back, so I know I'm going to get at least a couple hits in with the RG. And the Inferno Drag isn't too much of a threat because he's not going to end up supporting it with anything, so I can just end up completely ignoring it, focusing on the left side. And at this point, I knew I was in a good situation. Even though he had a good amount of damage on the tower, I knew it wasn't too much of a problem because double and triple elixir are just so good for me in this matchup. So I'm being patient, as you can see, just cycling Ghost in the back. And then I think I just ignore the Goblin Gang because I know that that was an overcommitment, and I instead go on offense with an Ewiz. Heal Spirit cleans up the rest. He's going to get a Mega Knight off, but Mega Knight doesn't do much DPS to the RG, so not too much of a problem for me. We're in a great spot right now. He's obviously about to get overwhelmed. I go for a Fireball here, cleaning everything up. And that matchup, not too bad. Just make sure you don't overcommit early on. And he calls the good game because he knows it's over. We're going to just cycle back to one more Fireball, finish off the game, and that is going to wrap that one up. Nice and easy matchup there. So the next one, we have Fino Final Form. You guys might have seen this guy high up on ladder before. He's known to run this crazy Hog RG Sparky Barbarians deck. He's mad because he knows that after the Sparky got nerfed, Ewiz is really good versus the Sparky, and he probably at this point knew what we were using just because I played him a couple of times earlier in the season, and I believe one time was when I had RG. I'm going to RG at the bridge because I knew what he was using, and I knew with me having an Ewiz in cycle, that Sparky's not going to be a problem for me whatsoever. It's honestly just so good versus Sparky, and Sparky's kind of weak right now after the nerf it got recently. I wasn't a huge fan of the Sparky nerf. I personally liked using Sparky myself. My number 5th finish in the world I got like half a year ago was with Goblin Giant Sparky, so obviously I'm a little biased, but I'm not a fan of the Sparky nerf. I think it's very weak right now. But we're already off to a great start. And I went for Ghost at the bridge because I knew his Barbarians were out of rotation, so he didn't have any reliable ground card in cycle to stop it, and the Mega Minion is not enough to take it out, efficiently. It's still going to end up getting 3 hits on the tower with a Mega Minion. So overall, his deck really struggles versus our Royal Ghost because if he doesn't have Barbarians in cycle, it's getting to his tower no matter what, pretty much. So we're going to slow it down here. We're just continuing to play this, like we were playing it pretty slow, but now that we're in double, RG at the bridge is fine aggressively. I pretty much at this point want to take his tower because I know that even if we got in a 2-tower game, I would probably win anyway because I can RG in the pocket. And I know he can RG in the pocket too, but I feel like I have just a better counter to him overall because I have the Fisherman. So if he were to RG in the pocket, I could of course just pull it away with a Fisherman, whereas he would have to go for Barbarians that I have Fireball for. So I'm pretty safe playing it a little aggressively. And I also knew there was a chance we would defend like we're doing right here. He goes for a Hog, Minion Horde out of desperation, but I had everything I needed in rotation, so we're able to defend without him even taking the tower. So that was a really nice win there too. Definitely a pretty solid matchup for us, but I'm glad we were able to save our tower. This next one, in my opinion, this is a matchup that is not as good as the ones that we went over previously. Hold on a second here. Yeah, this one right here versus Pegasus. He's very good with Graveyard Freeze. This one I don't think is an amazing matchup just because I feel like the Bowler and the Freeze and also like his Ewiz is really good versus the Fisherman. I feel like if he plays really well, it's not the best matchup. I don't think he played it perfectly though. I also think maybe I just played it pretty well, and you'll see towards the end of the game he ends up making a pretty big mistake, which you guys are about to witness as well. So he's going to go for a Graveyard, and then he follows it up with a Freeze because he knows we don't have the best Graveyard answer, so that was definitely a good play on his end. Luckily that Bowler wasn't lined up with the tower after I played that Barb Barrel. It was off to the side, so that was a good placement on my end. He's going to get a huge chunk of damage, but notice the elixir deficit he's in. I'm up like 4 elixir. You see the Hunter down, and I'm almost at 10, and he's at 6 after cycling an Ewiz. So I know I'm up elixir because he was waiting so long to play that Ewiz, so I'm going to RG right at the bridge. And Fireball resets the Inferno Drag, and he decided to play the Ewiz and the Inferno Drag in proximity of each other, so I'm able to just take out both of them. And at this point, we're right back in this game. Now, obviously, his deck is very good in double and triple elixir, so we still need to be playing really, really well. And I'm about to slow it down here to 1x speed so we can, talk through everything as it's happening a little bit slower. But he is going to go for an Ewiz. I want to Fireball that, get it off of the board right away. I did make a very small mistake. I would have liked to hit the Bowler, and unfortunately I missed it, but it didn't end up costing us anything, too bad, and the main purpose of the Fireball was to take care of the Ewiz anyway. But, I mean, had I hit the Bowler, it probably would have been a little better because it wouldn't have been tanking for that Inferno Drag as long as you saw the tower was hitting the Bowler, so then the Inferno Drag ended up not getting killed right away, but overall didn't matter too much. We were still in an overall pretty good position, but you guys are about to see just 1 or 2 graveyard pushes on his end can like easily turn this game around for him in like an instant. So he's gonna just be playing it pretty passively. Again, his deck he's playing, that's how you play it. It's a very, very passive deck. You're getting most of your damage in double and sometimes even triple elixir. I want to distract that bowler momentarily, so I go for a bar barrel. And I'm trying to play stuff high up so he can't get a graveyard off. Notice how I'm kind of like blocking the bridge with my support cards, because I know that if something crosses over, he's going to graveyard, and I want to delay that as much as possible because I know I'm in the lead. So I was at this point wondering, could we actually win this off of tower damage? But then look at how much damage his graveyard gets, and then I at that point was like, okay, there's no way that we're going to win this off of tower damage because he already just took like 2/3 of my tower off of 1 graveyard push. So I was like, okay, we need to basically take his tower if we want to win this. So I started going in on offense again. Really nice fireball here. I fireball the Ice Wizard into the opposite lane so we don't need to worry about it and it doesn't end up going, you know, on the right side, which is obviously where he would like it to have gone. And he's doing a really nice job of ensuring that the bowler doesn't activate the king tower because he continues to like make sure he's positioning his bowler correctly, and a good splash hero player with bowler will make sure you never activate the king tower with the fisherman on top of the bowler, and he's been doing a good job of that. So he's going to go for like a misclick graveyard, and this was the big mistake I was talking about. He probably meant to play it on the tower, or maybe he was trying to cycle like another support card before he went in with it. And that was the mistake I needed to win this. But look at this. I end up making a mistake myself. Watch this. Watch this. Look at this fireball hitting absolutely nothing. Like, look at this. I kind of panicked at this moment because I kind of did exactly what he did. Like, my finger slipped. I was trying to fireball the bowler in the tower, but I was way off. But it didn't even matter. I guess him misclicking the graveyard was overall a much bigger mistake because us misclicking the fireball didn't matter nearly as much, apparently. So we ended up winning that. Next game we got here is versus Denzito Pro. So this guy is very good with this deck. He always uses it. He finished 44th with it last season. Best finished 21st. Very, very good with the deck. Let's go ahead and get into this game. It's obviously an off-meta deck, you know, Wizard. Not something you see a lot typically in the top 100, or this match actually took place in the top 50, but you know, he does have success with it. So it proves that pretty much, guys, any card that you have, you know, leveled up, if you use it well enough, you can have success with it. So we're going to speed it up here. I unfortunately didn't have a Fisherman in cycle for his Hog Rider. Obviously, I would have liked to have just Fishermaned the Hog to the King Tower, but I didn't have it in rotation, so I wanted to drop a Ghost and an Ewiz to basically make sure that it doesn't get a single hit. I pull the Giant Skeleton back with the RG because it was kind of my best option at that point, and then this was really bad. He did a really nice job there of like, recognizing my cycles, so he took advantage of going in for a Hog at the bridge when I didn't have a Fisherman or a Hunter, or I believe an Ewiz in cycle, so that was honestly a really good play on his part. He gets pretty aggressive with that Fireball, and the Hunter's still alive, so I go RG, knowing that his Tornado was also out of rotation, so it was a pretty good play, knowing I was guaranteed to get, you know, maybe damage, or at the very least forced a lot of Elixir out of him. So we're going to slow it down here. This, again, was a pretty good play on his end, but luckily our defense was really solid, and he didn't even end up getting a single Hog hit. So now, you know, things were looking okay, because I feel like, you know, this matchup, you know, I would say it's like roughly even. It might even be slightly in our favor. So I knew that if I played well the rest of the game and kept my cycle pretty clean and like how I wanted it to, we would be fine. Pretty bad Knight on his end. That could have even cost him the game. He played that Knight a little late. Had he played it a little bit earlier, he would have ended up blocking the Wizard, and the Fisherman would have pulled the Knight instead of the Wizard. And had that happened and the Wizard stayed alive, he could have potentially won. Notice I don't Bar Barrel because I knew his Skarmy wasn't in cycle, but then I go for a Prediction Bar Barrel. Really nice play on my end. I was keeping track of his cycle. Keeping track of cycle is really, really important, and in my opinion, way more important than keeping track of Elixir. That's my number one like tip, just for a small tip for you guys to improve. Really practice keeping track of cycle. Remember, when someone plays a card, they need to play 4 cards to get back to it. So if you keep that in mind, it'll really help you out in lots of matchups, and honestly in most, because pretty much in every game, it's really important to keep track of cycle. So very tight game, but we currently have the lead. I want to make sure that we try to stop that hog, but it doesn't. It does get one hit though, which is unfortunate. But I go again on offense. I know that he doesn't have a Scarmian cycle, so he's gonna have to cycle a bunch of cards to get back to it. And then I go, I believe, for a Bar Barrel right here. But unfortunately, he didn't end up playing his Scarmy. That was a really nice play on his end. He kind of juked us out because I knew he had the Scarmian cycle, but he ended up going for a log, probably because he was expecting me to go in for a prediction Bar Barrel. And this hog gets one hit. It might even get a second. No, it was very close to getting a second. But so I do a really risky play right here. Watch this. I cycle 2 fireballs on his tower. It's triple elixir. I was kind of taking a chance here, but it kind of looked like he lagged for a second. So, I mean, like, I kind of got I actually didn't notice that too much when I was, like, in the game, but it looks like he lagged there. But I'm going to be honest, I don't think it would have mattered anyway because, I mean, I would have been able to cycle back to another fireball. And if he went hog, I'm pretty sure I could have just, like, E-Wizzed and huntered it. So I doubt it would have mattered, but... Oh, and look at this. We lost 40 here. This was really unfortunate because then I had to play 3 games to get back to it. Since we already kind of went over and off meta deck, let's go over Logbait and the final game, and that'll be it for the video. So let's go into this game versus Logbait Tesla. In my opinion, Logbait Inferno and Logbait Tesla are roughly the same matchup. You play it the same way, so this will kind of show you guys exactly how you want to play it. I don't think he played it perfectly, in my opinion. I think he made a couple small cycling errors, but overall, I typically beat Logbait. I think I played versus Bad Bunny 4 times this season, and I've only lost to him once. So I would say it's a pretty decent matchup for RG. But if they have Inferno, I think it might be a little harder, because to be fair, I did lose to Kid, I think, 2 times this season, and I only beat him once, so Inferno might be slightly harder. But you still play it the exact same way. I like going for fireballs on the princess unless I have a like a fisherman or ghost in cycle. One really important tip is if they don't have a knight in cycle and if they go for princess, you try cycling ghost same lane as the princess, so that way you don't have to fireball and you actually have a support card down, which is going to force more elixir out of them. It's a 3-for-3 trade, and they might even go for like a goblin gang to try to protect the princess, so they're ending up spending 6 elixir. Then you have an elixir advantage and you can kind of like capitalize off of that. And maybe the Goblin Gang takes out, the Ghost takes out most of the Goblin Gang or something, and then you can Fisherman away the Princess if they somehow kept it alive. Just as an example of something you can do in this matchup. So I RG in the back like I like doing. In single elixir, RG in the back is an amazing play when you verse any deck that has a building. Whether they have a Tesla, an Inferno, a, like a Goblin Cage. I usually like going for RGs in the back when I know they can't punish me. Oh, and Bomb Tower too. If they have Hog Bomb Tower, it's also a good play. But not versus Expo. Do not RG in the back versus Expo if they cycle a Tesla. That's the one matchup you don't do it, and you guys are about to see Expo in the next game. But I will say in advance, I kind of got really lucky because the guy who I played against actually kind of lagged out. We kind of got a little lucky the last game that got us #1, but it was looking pretty good for us anyway, and we might have won. But it kind of like we got it. Well, you guys will see what I'm talking about. I'm gonna go for Ghost at the bridge, trying to take care of the princess, and he goes for a knight, so spending a lot of elixir. And we already have a good lead, so I'm again cycling RGs in the back. E-Wiz at the bridge on the princess. Always make sure you're looking for the shadow of the Goblin Barrel to ensure you don't miss the Goblins on the Bar Barrel, because if you end up missing the Goblins and they stack damage from that over time, things can get pretty difficult for you, if I'm being honest. So he's going to spend a lot of elixir to protect that princess. This is what I'm talking about, guys. Make them spend a lot of elixir to protect that princess, because then that's less elixir they're spending on offense. It's also less elixir they're spending to defend your RG. So we're still in an amazing position. We RG in the back again. I go for a Bar Barrel. I think this is pretty soon where he gives up because he knows he pretty much lost and it was over anyway. Yeah, does he rocket my... He rocketed my King Tower. He kind of gave up pretty early, but something you guys might have like noticed, a lot of like ladder players in the top 200 and 100 give up like way more often, or maybe not way more often. I don't know how it is lower on ladder, but I mean, they like give up a lot more. But yeah, I don't know like why he gave up, but I guess it's because we had so much damage early on. But anyway, I think it's pretty good for us overall because because the Tesla I don't think is as good versus the RG as like, you know, the Inferno is. But let's go into our last game here. This is, I believe, Best NA. He has 2 accounts. He's actually I have him on my friends list. He's doing a really good job this season. You can see here Best Love Chakra, and then you can also see let me see here, Lemon Tree. Yeah, so 2 accounts that he has. So let's get into the last game that got me to #1 in the world. And yeah, you guys can see the first and like the second half, he kind of like lagged a little bit towards the end of the game, but things were still looking solid for us anyway. And I'm going to be honest, in this matchup, in double and triple elixir, it's slightly easier than in single anyway, so there's a good chance we probably would have won, but it is kind of unfortunate that he was lagging a little bit. But you guys will see, the single elixir and most of the double elixir, you'll notice like we both played it like really well. So he's gonna go for a knight. I like going in this matchup for high E-Wizzes and high hunters because I don't want him to be able to fireball the tower and the hunter and the E-Wiz, because in this matchup you want to prevent all the fireball value you can. So I'm cycling everything high up. All the fishermen, all the hunters, all the E-Wizzes are all high up, and then I'm going for bar barrels on the Teslas because there's no point for going for bar barrels on the tower. He ends up missing the log, getting greedy going for tower damage, so that was really unfortunate on his end. Let's slow it down here so you guys can see what I'm doing. I'm clumping everything together, not going in for RGs. I don't typically go for RGs in this matchup until double or triple elixir, and in some cases triple elixir. It just kind of depends on the flow of the game. If they go for a defensive expo, I'll almost always at that point go for an RG in the back to set up a push. In some cases, if I have support cards down like a Ghost and Fisherman, I'll directly go for an RG at the bridge on top of the expo. But notice how he pre-placed the Tesla and he didn't have the Tesla in rotation. I decided to go RG at the bridge, fireball the archers off the board, and we're slowly starting to outcycle him. Even though he's got expo and he's got a faster cycle, what I mean by outcycle him is we're forcing him to play cards he didn't want to play. Like you saw, he ended up going for a Tesla, and I kind of identified that and knew he wasn't going to be able to get back to one right away without playing a lot of cards. Still didn't have Tesla in rotation here, so I cycle all my cards, get back to another fireball, hit the archers right away, and this is where he kind of like, it looked like he lagged, like he's going for the angry face right here. So that's what I was talking about. Like, I don't know like if he had the drop glitch or something or is lagging, but I think it like happened here too, because I noticed he was playing cards a little bit less. Could have had problems with his internet. It's very unlikely for like this wouldn't happen, I don't think, like last day of the season, because players are like really making sure their internet is like good and they're not lagging at all. But I guess like unfortunately for him, yeah, I don't know, like maybe he was using data or something, but he ended up like lagging there at the end. But you can see that's how you play the matchup. You play it really passively in single. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm really happy I was able to get to #1 in the world. And oh, well, it looks like we're second now. Sand God ended up passing us. But, well, it was fun while it lasted for the whole, I think it was about, you know, maybe 30 minutes. But guess what? When I'm done recording this, maybe I'll try to go for #1 again. And if I hit 8K trophies, maybe I'll try to be the first to hit 8,000 trophies. Hope you guys enjoy the video. I'm going to do my best to try to finish top 3 this season. Make sure to like the video if you guys enjoyed it. Subscribe if not subscribed already. And thanks again. Until next time, guys.